DeBrienne with Akers. Mateo DeBrienne! And Mateo reminds us that he used to be a forward. He's got quality, there's no question about that. Shoot. Kakuna Mane! And he just about broke the crossbar off the net as the BC Bash belongs to Pacific once again.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CPL Newsroom presented by Volkswagen. Week 8 has come and gone, and what a record-breaking week it was. You may have seen it or heard it. By the way, that is a little bit of a cheeky Adam Jenkins laugh there. Not sure if that's borderline cute or evil when Kakuna Mane smashes the ball in off the bar. It was a record-setting weekend, no doubt about it. It began last Wednesday when York United set a club record with 3 wins in a row for the first time. Stunning Forge with a 2-1 win, thanks to Brem Samaro's 93rd minute screamer. The action continued into the weekend. We said about it on Friday night. It ended Vancouver FC 3, Pacific FC 6. Yes, that's right. 9 total goals, the most ever in a CPL game, and the youngest ever goal scorer, as TJ Tahid scored the second of 3 for Vancouver FC, Kwok in the 7th, Tahid and Hundal with a penalty. As for Pacific, 6 goal scorers, all very different. Didic, Hurd, Saluf, Ongaro, Aparicio from the spot, and I said, aforementioned, Mane. On Saturday, Cavalry won, Forge won. Continued to be a real good duel in the end. Jordan Hamilton in the 94th minute got the equalizer after Ali Musi scored in the first half. A big win in the nation's capital on Saturday. Bassett and Shaw for Atletico Ottawa secured 3 points against Halifax Wanderers. And on Sunday, a really fun, wide-open game in Winnipeg ended 1-1 in the rain, the tropical heat storm, and in the end, another 2 brilliant individual goals. Babouli for York and DeBrienne for Valor. Common themes of the week, brilliant goals, no doubt about it. More leads evaporating. If you've been watching the season closely, that has been a real theme all year long. We've had 4 more leads evaporate this weekend. Coaches making a difference with subs. That was crucial as well all weekend. We'll get into all of that with our correspondents over the next hour here on the Newsroom, brought to you by Volkswagen. We start the show, though, in the nation's capital and in Ottawa, where all the talk around the 2022 regular season champions was one of negativity. Last week's loss against Forge, for example, made it 4 defeats in their opening 7 games. For reference, only 4 defeats came in their first 17 games last year. That also, their 4th defeat, was a home loss against Forge. Safe to say, then, this game against Halifax was enormous. And we bring in our own Mitchell Tierney, who is our correspondent on this one. Mitch, great to see you again. Pressure on the hosts to win. Pressure on Halifax to deliver. Overall, what number out of 10 would you give this contest in terms of its compelling factor? And what did you like it?
Yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. A really more open match than maybe anticipated between, two sides who, like you said, really, really needed 3 points. 28 shot attempts between the two sides. Plenty of chances, especially in a very wide open and thrilling second half that I think really could have gone either way. Halifax, through Andre Rampersad missing a glorious chance to take the lead, and the lead would be so important in a match between these two sides. And, another outstanding crowd in Ottawa who really were finally given something to cheer about. I believe that's just the 5th time in 23 home matches in all competitions under Carlos Gonzalez that Ottawa scored more than a single goal at home. So a big performance from Atleti and a thrilling overall match.
Yeah, it was a tremendous victory for them. By the way, we're hoping to get on Ollie Bassett within the next 10 minutes to talk more about this as well. Bassett was just the driver in all this. We can talk about shape and tactics, and often we do. And I know you had a great piece on Campia.ca just about Atletico Ottawa, particularly in possession, moving back to that familiar back 3. Wimet certainly got a lot better in his form. They're getting a little bit more together. Speo was terrific. He's going to be in the team of the week this week. Sometimes it can be about shape and tactics, but sometimes, Mitch, it's just about perseverance and patience and just desire. And led by Bassett, that seemingly was what the case was like in the second half. This team just willed themselves to win.
Yeah, and that's crucial as well, obviously, for a team who were sitting bottom of the table and desperately needed the 3 points. They start very well. The better side through 40 minutes, they're creating overloads down the wings with Johnny LSC and Gianni Dos Santos, but they can't quite click in front of goal. Then Halifax starts to grow into the game. Obviously, that Rampersad chance that Sean Melvin, obviously, you expect Rampersad to make that, but Sean Melvin with a game-saving reflex stop on that. Then on the goal, just the effort from Ollie Bassett. I think Jordan Wilson showed this very well on the broadcast, but his ability to make that run and get forward up there with Malcolm Shaw. If Bassett's not there, it's another missed chance for Ottawa. It's another good opportunity that goes begging, and then who knows, the shoulder or the heads drop, and maybe it's another Forge like last week where they have all these chances and can't find the breakthrough. So that was a critical moment in the match, and just an excellent performance for Bassett. By the way, he's in the exact same spot on the next goal as well. Obviously, Shaw converts it, but this is a player who's really finding himself in those good positions this season. His fourth goal, and critical for Ottawa to get that goal and get these 3 points.
Yeah, Bassett currently tied with Sean Hundell for the Golden Boot lead as well at 4 goals in the CPL. First home win since August of last year as well for them, which was a crucial win for their home fans. You could see what it meant for them. We're going to get more into Carlos Gonzalez next in terms of the impact that he made on this game. But before we do that, let's go back to TD Place and hear from the Atletico Ottawa gaffer.
It was a very important win today. I think it was a win that we were looking for a lot of months ago. A win that the fans deserve it. The people that come every single day to the stadium to cheer up the team, they deserve it first. Secondly, for the players, very important win so that we start to have better feelings at home, and they start to have a little bit more of confidence. And at the end of the day, 3 points that are very useful points to be in a better position in the league, and a win that can give us, a push for the next game.
Push for the next game, no doubt. This was a huge day for him, right? I mean, you think about coming in on the back of a bit of pressure. The first real time he's had a lot of pressure piling on. They get that victory 5-0 away, but then suddenly they lose games, obviously against the game against Cavalry and against Forge. It seemingly was going the wrong direction. Mitchell, it was still 0-0 when he made triple sub in the 67th minute. And it looked like it was going to be familiar again. Okay, this time they're playing better, but they're not going to get it done. On then comes Noah Verhoeven, Zach Verhoeven, Carl Hayworth, and it completely changed the game. They all made a direct impact right away.
Yeah, I think it was a real recognition from Gonzalez as to which players would really fit the type of game it was turning out to be. When things were opening up and there was a little bit more space, in behind Halifax and in those attacking areas. A guy like Zach Verhoeven who has done this before. We've seen it in multiple occasions. We saw it earlier against Vancouver when they were kind of opening up in the second half. Down a couple goals. Verhoeven comes on and makes an immediate impact here again. He comes in, he wins that header in the midfield that leads to the goal, and then the opening goal. And then, he obviously plays that beautiful ball through to Noah Verhoeven for the second goal. So great impact. And again, just a good recognition of what type of players could make the change in this match.
Quickly, Mitch, before we get to Halifax, did you think that this was like a response that the players deserve? You mentioned earlier, deserve to give to the fans. That fan base came alive in the second half. And part of football is understanding when your team needs that lift. And it seemingly from the broadcast alone, you could sense that this was something the players wanted to give back to the fans.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, it's been well documented how much soccer is growing in that area, and they really were deserving of a performance like this, where their side, not only played some beautiful football, but also, finally got that win. So it was a great performance, and you could tell, with the celebrations, it was always running towards the dub. Making it known that, they really have appreciated all the cheering that these fans have done through some difficult times at points this season.
Let's get into Halifax. And before we hear what you have to say about that, let's go back to TD Place and get the reaction from Patrice Geiser, who wasn't too pleased, particularly with the body language when the team went down by 1-0.
We had a massive chance, and it felt like the moment we missed it, and the reaction from the group was really poor, like putting their hands above their head and stuff. I think at that point, instead of wanting more, we deflated, and they kept coming. Game opened up a little bit in the last 20, and once they scored one, we had to make decisions to open up and try to go R1, and they got the second against us opening up, and not much you can do now other than we got a game next week and get ready to get back on the right path.
Well, let's get into these guys then, Mitch. It's 8 games in and still no wins. I know some of this conversation in the chat from some Halifax fans. That's no wins since September for them. It's hard, though, is it not, to put that kind of record with this record? It's a completely different team, different manager, different look. And the more I speak to people who cover this league, the more I feel like there are 2 camps. There's the camp that's the patient camp that knows that it's coming, that they're playing a lot more attractive football, that you can see that there's clues, right? There's clues to success of the team evolving. And there's another camp that go, look, if you can't score goals, you're not going to go anywhere. And this team, getting a little bit misdirection. Where do you stand, and do you feel the same way?
I think I'm getting more and more into the second camp of, if you can't score goals, where are the results going to come from? I think ultimately this was a very difficult tactical matchup for Halifax, as it has been kind of throughout the matchups between these two sides, because they are such a team that likes to play on the front foot and does leave those spaces in behind, perhaps more than, some of those other sides that are more experienced at playing this way. So I thought that was always going to be something that Ottawa could exploit. But yeah, it's really difficult when you can't create, or when you're creating all these chances, but you can't seem to find that finish, and obviously it's a chance that's really rough to miss, because it's a perfectly executed set piece, and you can only do set pieces like that so many times before other teams figure it out. So, it seemed like another way that they tried to score, they still couldn't get it done. And obviously, yeah, that's a difficult one for them. And I think it's, the more they miss these chances, the more it's going to become difficult to start burying them consistently.
They've drawn 6 of their opening 8 games. Of the 2 games that they've lost, when you think about that game, they probably were not the better side, but they had their chance, and then they got smashed against York at home. So I think, the 2 games that they've lost, I think, have shown us that they can lose playing that way. And I think that's what Patrice has said all along. No, I mean, ultimately, when you come in to commit to a style that they want to commit to, you are opening yourself up to losing games like that. Chasing the game. It was certainly way better for a neutral to see a game that open, much like the York game. They came out in the second half trying to go for it. They gave away a silly goal and they got beat 3-0. I think when you're committing to a cause like this, you're going to get that. But still, as the players have alluded to, they need to win games. Let's go back to some TD play, some reaction. Here's Massimo Ferrin.
Yeah, definitely it's frustrating. I think this team obviously is needing and wanting a win and feel like we deserve one. Obviously didn't come tonight. We were in it, had a few chances. Game obviously could have went differently if we were able to bury a couple of those, but at the end of the day, we got to get back to work, and we got to look to get our home crowd going. Now being at home for a little bit, and be able to get some momentum and get some wins, which we believe we can do.
Aside from Halifax. All right, Mitch, before we let you go, what's next for these two? What do you expect next week? You could say big games for both, but particularly for Halifax as they return home.
Yeah, you mentioned the 6 draws for Halifax. Another side with 6 draws this season being Valor. 2 teams that will definitely be looking for 3 points as they play out at the Wanderers grounds. And then for Ottawa, they have a difficult challenge. They're staying in Ontario, but they're going away to the hottest team in the CPL, York, on Friday. So that'll be a good test for them to see if they can build on a result, something they haven't quite been able to do this season.
All right, Mitch, we appreciate it as ever. Catch Mitchell's great work at campl.ca. We'll make a substitution now, and we'll bring in the current reigning player of the year and players player of the year. Here he is. Here's Ollie Bassett joining us on a rare day off. I appreciate that, mate. Thanks for this. Thanks for joining us. I guess we'll start with just what was the reaction in the dressing room Saturday night after a huge win?
Thank you, KJ, for having me on. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. But yeah, it was good. I think it was the first time we've won at home since August last year. So yeah, it was a very long time, and in our opinion, we have the best fans in the league. So I think it was nice to give them something to cheer about on the weekend, and it was important for us to not let the teams at the top kind of get too far away from us early on. So yeah, we're just looking to use the result on the weekend as momentum for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you personally, I thought we just talked about it. You were absolutely terrific in that game, but we felt a little bit as we analyzed it. We heard from Carlos Gonzalez as well. You can get a lot into the tactics and the different shapes of different things, Ollie, but that seemed like a second half where it was just about desire and willing yourself to win the game. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can talk about tactics and patterns of play and personnel and all these different types of things as much as you want, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes football is complicated when it's very much a more simple game, and that's just outworking your opposition and kind of winning your individual battles. And yeah, I think all over the pitch on the weekend, to a man, including the subs that came on, I think had a big impact on the game. And yeah, I think it was a key to why we came away with the 3 points.
Yeah, we highlighted the triple sub, and all three of them made a massive impact on that. Talk to me, if you will, Ollie, a little bit about what's it been like over the last few weeks, because obviously you had a glorious season last year for the team. A lot of things went well. You go to Vancouver, you get 5. It looks like you're back on track. Then you lose to the Cavalry, and then a heartbreaker against Forge. But they say you find a lot about yourself, in those turbulent moments in sports. What's it been like as a group, digging deep and not panicking too much over the last few weeks before that game?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough. I think when you go through any kind of stretch of a bad run of form, you can maybe start doubting yourself individually and collectively. But I don't think we've done that. I think we look around our locker room every morning in training, and we see the quality that we have with the new guys that we've brought in. But I think it took us a bit of time last year as well to get going and get everyone up to speed tactically. But I think when we do that and everyone's kind of aware of their roles and responsibilities within the team, I think hopefully we can see more of the performances that we were able to put in over the weekend continue over the course of the season.
And you're up to 4 goals now. You're tied with Sean Hundle as the top goal scorer in the league through 8 games, which is a nice little stat as well. It speaks to your value as well. But I know you mentioned it a little bit on One Soccer, but have you been analyzing your games a little bit more, those runs deep into the box? Because you were there as well for the second one. It could have fell to you at 4 as well.
Yeah. Like I said, I think after the game, I spoke to the guys in the studio, and I kind of, said that when I was, maybe a few years younger and less experienced, it was more for me about, trying to stay involved in the game and get as many touches on the ball as I could, because I felt like I was a player that if I didn't touch the ball, then I didn't feel like I was affecting the game. But yeah, I think as I've got older and, gained a bit more experience, it's important as a midfielder to have good numbers. So, I'd sacrifice maybe, touching the ball less during the match, but then contributing more with, a goal or assist. So yeah, I just kind of tried to get myself into good areas, arriving late on the edge of the box or making third man runs. And, I think this season it's been paying off so far. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly was the case on Saturday. And then those celebrations afterwards. It's nice to get that second one right after, right? When you feel like you've secured it, and particularly right in front of the Bytown boys and everyone in the celebration. What's that connection like with those fans? Because I know that they travel a lot and they mean a ton to you as players.
Yeah, it's amazing. They travel, all over Forge, York. They come in numbers at home to support us. But yeah, I think it was nice. I think when you're going through the kind of run of form that we've had and you go 1-0 up, you're obviously happy to be winning, but there's always maybe that thought in the back of the mind that, a decision could go against you or an individual mistake could kind of creep in. So yeah, it was nice to get the second for sure. And I think scoring both of the goals in front of, that section of the ground was nice. They've been supporting us week in, week out. So yeah, it was a nice moment. And yeah, we obviously appreciate, everyone that comes out.
It felt like a true team win too, Ollie. I mean, we've talked about earlier about Rampersad's golden chance, but Melvin makes a terrific save. Mm-hmm. He's been really good for you. It feels like you've got a little bit more continuity with Wimet's form at the back now in that back 3 in possession. And, you got Hayworth coming back and there's lots of, I feel like you're building up with more continuity now. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like you said, going back to Sean, I think, yes, probably one of the best saves I've seen in a while. It's not like it was straight at him as well. He's had to react quickly and tip it around the post. And that was at 0-0. So I think if that goes in, it could be a completely different game. So yeah, I think he totally kept us in the game, and yeah, he was immense on Saturday. But yeah, I think after that we kind of dug in, and maybe the last 20 minutes we were kind of penned in a little bit and under a bit of pressure. But I think naturally that's going to happen when you go 2-0 up, and you're looking to see a game out.
Couple more for you before we let you go. What's Carlos been like? And I know you continue to work so closely with him, but different results of the last few weeks. But is it fair to say that he is the same most weeks anyway?
Yeah, I think so. I think him and his staff, work extremely hard day in, day out. They're in the office analysing games and, our performances in training and stuff like that. So, yeah, he hasn't deviated away too much of what brought us success last year. I think the tactics have kind of stayed similar. But, I think sometimes as players, the coach can give you as much as he needs to, but then it has to come down, to the guys that step onto the pitch. So, yeah, I think to a man, everyone, on Saturday was amazing, and yeah, I think we felt like we thoroughly deserved to win that game.
That's all the on-pitch stuff. Let's have a little bit of quick fun before we let you go. I heard he's actually granted you a rare day off today. Can you confirm? And I believe you're on the golf course. Is that right?
Yeah, so we have today off. We travel Thursday for the game against York. So yeah, my friend's over from the UK right now, so we're just playing 9 holes. Not very well, but we're out here trying to play. I'm not great, but it's something to do on the day off. Gets me out of the house. And then probably head to the gym later. But yeah, it's nice to just spend some time away from the pitch.
This beautiful country, mate. It's cold a lot, many months, so you've got to get out there when it's nice. No,
exactly. Yeah, I mean the winters are pretty, dark and gloomy and cold. So yeah, summer's coming soon. So hopefully, we'll just make the most of the good weather that we have.
So modest as ever, if you're not the best golf player on your team, who is? Who don't you want to play at golf?
Oh, Carl Hayworth is crazy good at golf.
Really?
Very good, very good. So they had a group last year, me, Carl, Sean, and Brian. That was kind of the 4, and Malcolm Shaw. We play a lot last year, but Carl's immense. Yeah. I've seen him shoot maybe 3-4 over 18. So yeah, he's got a bit for sure.
All right, mates. Well, that sounds fantastic. Listen, it sounds like you've got a lot of practice, so we'll let you get back into it. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate it, KJ. Thank you so much, huh?
Hey, congratulations, by the way. You don't know this, but you've been named the CPL Player of the Week again. So congrats on that.
Thank you, KJ. I appreciate it.
All right. We appreciate you, Ollie. Great job on Saturday. All the best soon. Okay. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks again.
Soon.
That's
Ollie
Bassett, a fantastic performer on Saturday, no doubt about it, and a big win. You could see the relief from them a little bit at the end. The fan base was immense as ever. So congratulations to Ollie and his team, and more than one appearance in the Team of the Week coming up, which will be announced in the next couple of hours as well. So look for that from Atletico Ottawa. All right, from the nation's capital, we'll now move over from the bottom of the table, which was Atletico Ottawa. We move to the top, where we still find Forge, despite 3 goals scored only in their last 3 games. 2 of which, by the way, have come in stoppage time. The last one came from Hamilton, for Hamilton, Jordan this time, with a late one in Calgary. That's where Charlie O'Connor-Clark's attention was this weekend. Charlie, great to see you. These teams do not like each other. In the end, they found a way of splitting the points. Overall, out of 10, what would you give this contest in terms of its compelling factor? What did you like about it?
Yeah, they certainly don't like each other. I'll go with a 7. It's mostly based on the utter heights that this fixture has produced in the past. I don't think this is the best Forge Cavalry game we've seen, but it was certainly a very entertaining one. It never disappoints, and this one didn't. But yeah, it was intense. It was fiery as always. I think there are 8 yellow cards in this game. And there was some interesting football, especially in the second half, with Forge continuously pressing and beating down at that Cavalry defense. And at the very, very almost last moment of the game, they find that goal, and the narrative in this game shifts in an absolute instant, which is just fascinating to see. So yeah, it was a very entertaining game, a beautiful day in Calgary as well. And a lot, maybe not a lot we learned about both teams this game, but a lot to break down from it.
Yeah, a lot to digest. And Jordan Hamilton, who actually I thought at the moment when he came on and got a key goal as a substitute last year, what looked like to be an equalizer. And in the end, Mickey Cantab got the winner late on. There was not enough time this time. Hamilton this time, instead of waiting for the 84th, I think waited for the 94th to get the crucial goal to stop Cavalry getting a chance to come back. Is that the story here? the main story coming out of this, Charlie. I know you alluded to it a little bit again in your analysis, but once again, it's Cavalry leaving points behind that they should be taking, not only in the league, but also against Forge. It's a familiar theme this season, but also against Forge, where you feel like they just keep leaving things behind that they should take.
They do, man. Cavalry have given up 12 points from winning positions this year. They've
eight games in.
8 games in. They've had 3 leads against Forge in 2 games, and they've allowed Forge to score next every single time, all 3 times. It's just so frustrating for Cavalry, because if they hold on for literally 90 more seconds in this game, it's a completely different feeling after the game for them, right? I mean, it's not necessarily a dominant win by any stretch of the imagination, but if they had held on, then it's a clean sheet home win against the first place team in the league. But they didn't. And again, they put themselves in a position where they don't score the second goal, and they they leave themselves vulnerable to that kind of thing, right? If you're only ever up by 1 goal, then you're always at risk of giving up a late equalizer and dropping points. And in the first half, especially, Cavalry had some of those chances. They really were knocking at the door with some of those transition moments. We're going to talk about Ali Musi in a bit, but Forge didn't really have an answer for him in the first half of this game. But then the second, we see maybe a bit of an adjustment from Forge. We see Cavalry maybe having to absorb more pressure in this game and not finding the counterattacks that they had in the first half. And just at the end of the day, it's Forge who, in the very end of the game, find a way through. And now Cavalry, it's the same old story, and they're just continuously frustrated like that.
Yeah, let's get into some positive with Ali Musi and a little bit of frustration as well on Cavalry side in a second. Before we do that, let's go back to Spruce Meadows at Go Field and hear from Cavalry boss Tommy Wilden Jr.
I just felt this one we would see through. That's what is the heart-wrenching one, because look, Forge are a great side. They've shown it, 3-time champions. They can mix it with MLS teams. They can mix it in CONCACAF. Today, I thought we were outstanding in the first half with the ball. And then second half, we had to show a different side of us with the defence. So it is a gut punch to concede a goal that early, because everything they threw at us, we seemed to block and be able to counter. And yeah, I'm sick to the stomach for the boys.
He's right, but what else is right is they only had 1 shot on goal, Charlie. Like, as much as they had really good with the ball, Musi's shot, you could argue, should have been saved by Tristan Henry, who's been wonderful, but I'm sure he would want that back at his near post. So you could say, back to your point, did they create enough chances to get 2 goals? Did they create enough chances to see it out in that side? And the other thing too is it a case now as if you can stop Ali Musi, you can kind of stop Cavalry? Is that fair?
In a game like this, it kind of felt like it, where it certainly seemed like Cavalry's attacking moments were going to come in those transition moments when they were able to be a little bit direct and maybe bypass the Forge press, which is what they like to do. And obviously Ali Musi is one of the best players in the league so far this season. He's been unstoppable in a lot of senses. And just the connection of him and maybe Sergio Camargo I'll put in there as well.
Good point.
Kind of engines for Cavalry going forward in this game. Camargo running up and down the pitch to play these little give and goes and eventually get it out to Musi out on the wing. And that is where it felt like all of the best Cavalry attacks were going to come down. And I guess Forge adjust in the second half. They maybe find that extra gear, that bit of energy that they maybe didn't have in the first half. And we'll talk about why they didn't have that in a second. But yeah, it seems like once you are able to identify that part of the attack and neutralize it, then there's not a lot else that Cavalry are going to hit you with at the moment. And that's got to be really frustrating as well.
This is not necessarily a knock on Cavalry. This is more of a general football point. Things I don't like to see when teams are winning by 1 goal, particularly home teams. I don't like 93rd minute subs. I don't like them. And I'll tell you why, because I think it just kills the momentum a bit. It sends a message. It felt like Cavalry were slowing down. I think Marco Carducci got a warning for time wasting in the 86th minute or something. It just felt like they could see the line and they get on their knees a little bit instead of staying and standing tall. They were climbing towards the line when they should have seen it out. I don't like 93rd minute subs because I just think it sends a message that you're trying to time waste. And nowadays, refs will just add it on. And you see it more and more with 5 subs. It's almost like, oh, we've got another guy. Well, let's just throw him on there and try and buy a bit of time. That's my thought. And look, it's not necessarily targeted at Cavalry. It's just a general football thought. Before we get into Force, let's go back to the Spruce Meadows and get some reaction. Here's Ali Musi.
It's a tough one, honestly, because like the margin is very, very fine. You know, we're like either one call, like we're one goal away. Like it's very tight. So it's very difficult to summarize how it's been. But like I said, we have to keep going. I take some responsibility on my end. I could have scored. You know, get the team up 2-0. We might come out with a 2-1 win. But yeah, we have to recoup, and we really have to learn from this, because it's been reoccurring a bit too much, and we're dropping too many points at this point. So we have to really lock in on both ends and be more aggressive.
Moosey taking responsibility there. I think it was a bit harsh. I mean, he's been one of the best players in the league, no doubt about it. As for the player reaction on the other side, let's go back and hear from Captain Forge. Here's Kyle Becker.
We've actually been talking about that a lot as a group. Obviously, we've played, I think it's our 5th game in 16 days. It's been pretty demanding. We've been playing in 2 competitions. We've played some great games. We've had some tough games, but in this league, you have to be resilient. Sometimes it's not going to be pretty, but you have to find a way. And picking up points, especially on the road in a tough place to play like this, is massive at the end of the season. So we know we just have to keep going. The goals aren't coming in bunches for us right now, but we just have to be persistent. And that's the message we've had as a group. And it's great to get a goal like that late in a game when we feel like we've been pushing. We had the bulk of possession. It's a little sloppy at times. We'll be the first to say that, but you have to find a way. Good teams find a way.
Good teams find a way, and I think he summed it up there. Ultimately, not pretty. 3rd game in 3 different cities in 8 days. Yeah. The schedule maker's not been kind at all at this point to Forge. Of course, they will get that back. It's always going to be the same in the end. Any major concerns going forward, particularly in attack, or is it just what Kyle Becker said there in terms of just grinding through these?
Yeah, you certainly can't call them major concerns when they're not firing on all cylinders. I think any Forge player would tell you right now, and they're still in 1st place, despite Pacific scoring a bazillion goals in the last month, or whatever the real number is. Kyle's right though. 5 games in 16 days. What separates a really, really great team from just a good team is that they find a way to get something out of a game, even when they're not at their best. Right? Forge in their last 4 CPL games, 62 shots and just 3 goals. Which, again, if you're a coach like Bobby Smirniotis, you look at that and you say, well, I'm really glad we're creating the shots, but the ball needs to start going in more. And I think it will, obviously, for Forge. They went through a similar stretch like this last year in June as well, I think. And then I think as we ticked over to July, Wubens Passius, just the ball started going in for him. I think he had like a hat trick against Edmonton and then 2 goals in his next 3 games as well. So it's not something that I would be sounding any alarm bells about with Forge by any means, but you'll certainly want to see them taking over earlier in games, maybe not having to come back from behind again. If the story with Cavalry is dropping points from losing positions, Forge are way out in front of the rest of the league with 6 points gained from losing positions.
Yeah.
Sorry. And it's just it's remarkable to see the way that they're just never counted out. Never. And I mean, their first loss of the season against York on Wednesday, it took a 93rd, 94th minute absolute wonder goal from Prem Samaro for them to lose a game, right? So again, with Forge, it just feels like it's incredibly difficult to beat them. And if you give them an opportunity, they will beat you, and they will find a way to at least get something out of it. I don't think the goals will come. They'll start coming more freely.
I think so too. And we have to say, when you talk about Forge's problems, it's almost like you have to say, like, okay, first world problems, because we understand that they're not as deep as issues in terms of other clubs. You know what I mean? They are very deep, and their problems are not as certainly not as heightened as some other
first
teams.
Place.
They're in first place. Exactly. But they've only scored more than 1 goal in 2 out of the 9 games. And one of those was a game when they got a penalty. The thing is, I think that out of necessary scheduling, the rotation has been clear, right? Janssen hasn't played as many games. Beck has only played a few games in a row now. They keep changing up front. You know, I'm not quite sure he feels like he knows his best 11 yet. But I think when they get that and they get a long stretch of just playing 1 game a week, I think the dam will burst and open. The only thing I would say is that at that point, it's time to either Terran Campbell, Wubens Passius, or Jordan Hamilton to be their number 9. Like they need a player who's going to play 5, 6, 7 games in a row almost from the start and just get on a run. And if they get on that run, then they're going to be fine. I just think that's been a little bit of an issue right now. We saw with Hamilton, particularly in that York game, he should have put the game, he should have had the game, should have been put him away before even Samaro scored from 40 yards or whatever it was. So I think that will be a clear area that they want to get more efficient in front of goal. Here's Bobby Smirniotis after this game.
Yeah, I think it's something that builds up in a team, and it builds up in the DNA and the culture of the group. It's one thing I ask from the players, to try and be as consistent as possible in the good, but also when things aren't going well in the game. Because that's football. I said it on Wednesday night. We got scored on the 93rd minute. It happened to us in that moment, and the football gods will turn around and give us one at some point. So you just have to keep an even state of a mindset, and that's one thing we try and do with the team. We don't get too excited after wins. We don't get too down after losses. And if you keep that mentality, it helps you in games like this one.
As ever, even keel Bobby there. What's next for these two, Charlie? 2 juicy games coming up for these guys. What do you expect?
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I mean, we start with Forge being at home against Pacific, top of the table clash. Winner goes into first place. 2 teams that are just Pacific firing right now, scoring some goals. So that's the biggest test probably Forge have had in the league yet this year. So that'll be just fascinating. Probably a must-watch game even for a neutral. And then Cavalry, they're also at home again, and they're going to welcome Vancouver FC to Spruce Meadows for the first time, which will be fun, especially because Cavalry were pretty upset with the way that they didn't get the win against Vancouver that last time out in Langley. So there's some unfinished business for them as well there. So those are both going to be really intriguing games where I think we'll maybe learn a little bit more about trends for both of these teams.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. By the way, quickly, it's been an amazing weekend for football, not only in the CPL, but Victor Lattori, former Cavalry player, with Ross County. If anyone didn't see it, he was playing in a Premiership playoff where they're down 3-0 in aggregate, and they get a 91st minute goal to send it to extra time, and then they win on penalties. This also came in a weekend when Toby Alderweireld smashed one in from 25 yards to win a title for Royal Antwerp in Belgium in like the 93rd minute. Yeah. This is just great football right now, Charlie, but great for Victor to stay in the Scottish Premier League under Malky Mackay.
Absolutely. That was amazing. And it's hard to keep tabs sometimes on all of the many CPL players that are out and plying their trade around the world now, but he has been killing it over there as such a young player to find his home in that side. And I'm really glad that at the very least, he's going to have another year in the Scottish Premiership, and maybe who knows what else comes next for him.
Yeah, it's a real fun time of year in Europe with these, these deciding knockout games affecting playoff positions and league titles. It doesn't get much better than that. All right, Charlie, thanks again. Keep up the great work as ever. Read Charlie's stuff at campl.ca. A reminder, CPL Predictor is back, brought to you by our friends at TonyBet. campl.ca/predictor is where you choose the scores. You can win up to 20,000, and we try and give you some tips here as well. Tickets to games that can win on there as well. Next, we move on to Winnipeg, Manitoba, where Valor welcomed York United in a game that ended 1-1. The 4th time a game involving Valor has ended that way this season. Benedict Rhodes watched this one for us. Very different 1-1, Benedict, than we've seen from Valor most of the time this year. This was a wide open game, a fun game. What number out of 10 would you give this contest and its compelling factor, and why? What did you like about this one?
I'll give it a 7.5. I think it was an exciting game, very end-to-end, like you said. There's a lot of opportunities for both teams, and some brilliant goalkeeping. For watching on YouTube, you just saw a fantastic save from Nico Giansopoulos, one of the saves of the month nominees, I'm sure, at the end of the month. And both these teams played well. I think Valor felt like they had more opportunities in this game, maybe to win this game, but York, after having 0 shots in the first half, really came out strong in the second half and took the lead early and really pushed it to Valor, I guess, to try and get what would have been a 4th consecutive win on the road, which would have been a club record, or extending their club record. But both teams settled for 1 point in the end, but I think both teams will come away feeling as though they probably could have had more.
It was a wide open game, really, wasn't it? And what was good about it is we saw Babuli score for York. I thought Di Rosario struggled a little bit, but his link-up play was better. Di Brian, absolute magnificent individual goal on his right foot, and he's quickly becoming a star player in this league. We'll talk more about him as well. But Williams and Nyanga-Berry were effective. It seemed like both attacking teams were very effective at crucial areas to keep this game wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Sazi Rosario made a bit of a difficult start to the season. I thought he did look a little bit sharper in this game. He seemed to be maybe combining a little bit better with the midfielders just below him in the team than he had in previous weeks. So I think if you're Martin Nash, maybe you want to try playing him for a second consecutive game, which is something he hasn't done a lot of this season, and maybe try to get him going a bit. But and the Valor group as well. Nyongabir, Williams were good on the wings. Siaj I thought looked okay up the middle, and Novak off the bench looked effective as well. And it was very end to end. Both teams were going at each other from minute 1 to minute 90.
Yeah, as I mentioned off the top, again, another theme here was Philip Dos Santos' changes that I think made a big difference in this game as well. Valor have only lost one game out of 8. I know they don't win many, but the game that they lost, they played really well in. It was the 3-2 topsy-turvy game in Hamilton. They've also drawn games a lot. 4 of them 1-1. 3 have now seen them come from behind in those games. So you get a feeling that they were lucky or certainly wanted to secure that. That didn't seem the case in this one, Benny. Do you think that the feeling was, talking to the coaches and players, that this was probably a game they should have won?
I think so. There's a couple of chances in this game that Valor really should have put in the back of the net. There's one in the first half where Pacific Nyongabir was I think less than 6 yards away from the goal and missed, was a free header from a couple of yards out. And then same thing happened in the second half with Walter Ponce. So they'll feel as though those 2 opportunities should have gone in. They did get the wonder goal from Debrienne to ultimately get a point, but I think they'll feel as though they probably should have had 2 or 3 more goals in this game.
Let's go back to IG Field and hear from the reaction from Valor. Here's their head coach, Philip Dos Santos.
I don't fault the guys in their effort and their commitment. It's just been incredible and a joy to coach and work with these guys every day. But football's about defining moments, and it's about the small moments, and it's about taking your chances and making sure that we don't give anything to the opposition. And I think that today again we have 2-3 very clear chances. I think about Pacific in the first half in the 6-yard box. I think about also a set play in the second half. I look at half chances where we could put good balls in behind the opposition or crosses that are going to generate volume and danger in the area, and we're just missing a little bit of, it's like that perfect dish, but we're missing the salt and pepper. So we just need a little bit of salt and pepper right now. For me, that's the way I see it.
Benny, how much dinners do you have with salt and pepper on them?
Enough.
Just a little salt and pepper needed there. Who's more important in an ingredient than salt and pepper for Valor, and that's Matteo Debrienne. Like, he might be like the sauce or something on the spaghetti right now. He's just getting everything going. One of 6 outfield players in the CPL this season, still to play every minute. This was an outstanding performance before the goal. Still playing left back, which is not necessarily his favorite position. What are we seeing in the evolution of this player, who right now is the runaway leader, by the way, in the candidates to become under 21 Canadian Player of the Year?
Yeah, he's absolutely the front runner for that award. I think this game he was doing a bit of everything. He led the team in several defensive categories. I think he won possession back 11 times. I think in this game, he made a couple of big tackles. There's one on Johnny Grant towards the end of the first half where York looked like they were maybe going to go up and score a late goal to end the first half, and made a huge sliding tackle to end that. And he was very solid in this game. Going forward as well, I think he had 9 crosses attempted in this game. He was getting the ball into the box. He should have had an assist on the Ponce missed chance. He played in the cross that led to the Nyongabir missed chance as well. So he was doing a bit of everything in this game, and he's becoming a very well-rounded player in this league.
Yeah, he's playing great. Let's go back to IG Field and hear from Matteo Debrienne.
In training, there's a lot of situations where I try to recreate moments like that, where I'm able to create myself some space on the inside. But Daryl Fordyce has also challenged me to become a stronger player on my right foot. And so today I just felt like it was one of those opportunities where I might be able to prove him wrong. And I just managed to create myself some space, and I managed to connect on a strike that ended up in the back of the net. So I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, let's talk about York United. again, like Forge had a game midweek, which is never easy. Then they had to travel. And, you could sense that their legs were certainly not as strong. I think a lot of their numbers will be down in terms of their minutes in the running, apart from Brem Samaro, I think is still running, by the way. He might have ran back from Winnipeg to York instead of taking the flight. That's how athletic that guy is. What did you think of them? They continue to impress me. Samaro and Alou in midfield, I think, are a tremendous tandem right now. Gagnon Lapare is back healthy. He came on. Petrasso's getting there. I know they haven't got the goals, but you mentioned Johnny Grant. He was very good. There's a lot to like about this team at the moment, the way they're playing under Martin Nash.
Yeah, absolutely. 7 points in 1 week is about as good as it gets in the Canadian Premier League, especially with 2 of those games being in Hamilton and in Winnipeg. So it was a very good week for them. You mentioned Samaro. He was excellent in midfield. I think he started the season playing a bit more at center back, and now he's kind of gone more of an advanced role. And I think that's really allowed York to dominate the midfield in some games. And in this game, they were defensively solid, and just the ability to get up the pitch in transition. That helps with Babouli, it helps with Alou and Samaro. Some of these guys you can just quickly just turn around and go up the field really fast, and the goals will come. But for now, they're putting in some strong performances and still find a way to pick up results.
Yeah, they've been very good. Let's hear their thoughts of their gaffer. Here's Martin Nash.
We had good moments today. I thought we were quite good in possession in a lot of areas in the first half, but we weren't connecting it higher up in the pitch. We tried to reorganize a few things at halftime to, because we thought we could create a few more chances. And then, the guys, it's our 3rd game in 7 days, so the guys have been putting in the shift, and a lot of guys have played all 3 games. So I think once we got the lead, maybe sat back a bit. And we did have a few breaks to try and get that second goal. But, we know coming here, it's never an easy game. They're organized, they work hard, and, it was everything we expected. And, we're pleased after the week we had to come away with 1 point.
Yeah, 3 games in 7 days, all in different areas for them as well. Not easy, and it doesn't get much easier, by the way. We get to what's next for them, but they play again Friday. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Martin Nash rest some players ahead of that one before they get a bit more of a longer gap before they fly across country to Pacific the week after. But there's no secret to this success. It's continuity. Martin Nash has not been able to play the same players consistently for a long time, and suddenly now you can think, okay, you can start seeing this pattern. Samaro and Alou look really good together. I think Tasman Mudakudis' passing range, particularly his angles when he brings the ball out, it's a big difference. With Fire on the left, he can play that range a little bit different. There's balance there. Grant G playing well. We alluded to, Bahia is doing great down the right. There's a lot of consistency there. So what's next for York and Valor, Benny, as they head into that next weekend, and what do you expect from them?
Yeah, like you mentioned, York are back at home this week. They play on Friday. Bit of a short turnaround again, but they'll be looking to pick up another big result at home against an Ottawa team who's also looking to string a couple of wins together. And then Valor hit the road, and they're going to Halifax, which is a big game for both teams. I think both teams were looking for a win. Halifax maybe more than Valor at the moment. They're getting a little bit desperate maybe for a win, and for their home fans, they'll be keen to beat Valor and get themselves back on track as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge game. No doubt about it on the East Coast. Benny, we appreciate you. Carry on the great work as ever at campl.ca for Benny's work there. We continue here on the newsroom presented by Volkswagen. Last but by no means least, the final game of the 4, and we head back to Friday night's clash in Langley, BC for a record-breaking night. And for that, we bring in Alex Gangu-Ruzik, who has been involved in a lot of games. He's seen a lot of special games over the years. AGR, I'm excited for your rating here. Overall, out of 10, what would you give this contest and why?
Well, I think I have to give it a 10, right? At a certain
Yes!
point, that the bar has to be hit, and I think it definitely hit that. It was a special week for goals in BC, by the way. I think I had a stretch of nearly 30 across the last 5 I've been to. It's been absurd. So this one, it hit at everything I'd want to see in a soccer game. It had the derby, obviously. Derbies, they're played, but they're for the fans, they're by the fans, but they're played by the players. And what I loved about this game is that both teams were up for the derby. Vancouver, it seemed personal, and Pacific, with the sort of team they are, you could tell it was simmering, and they really wanted to get one over Vancouver, and you could just see what it meant to them. And then you see the performances, the goals, just goals flying left, right, center, record-breaking performance in terms of the overall goals. You got a couple other records along the way. I think everyone who was at this game got their money's worth and then some.
They certainly did. I mean, TJ Tahid becoming the youngest goal scorer in CPL history, 9 goals, as we alluded to off the top. Massive difference with the substitutions from James Merriman as well. Ayman Salouf, who is already one of the best players in the CPL, showed it again, just coming on and being a gem, setting up a goal, scoring a goal, getting fouled for the penalty as well. We have to talk about Pacific because there's so much to like about them at the moment, AGR. You used the word resilience in your analysis, which I thought was a great one. But when the game was over and you finished it, what was your overwhelming major thoughts on them as a team right now after it was all done?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the group and you can only be fascinated by the way James Merriman has it all together. And I feel like, credit also has to be given to him because, it's as I've kind of, when I saw the depth of this Pacific team heading into the season, I'm not surprised based on that. But as I also kind of noted before the season, depth is both a blessing and a curse because when you have all this depth, when you get it clicking, it's just, majestic. Like the fact that you're able to bring on Ayman Saloufs and Isan Ongaros and Kakuta Manes who are scoring goals like that for fun. Like it's great, but there's also the flip side of it where if you get it wrong, all of a sudden you have guys like Isan Ongaro sitting on the bench and they're probably thinking like, what is this? I'm a goal scorer in this league. I should be playing. But when you kind of get that balance, you have it where a guy like Ongaro is on the bench right now, and it's not even a bad thing. It's okay. Work that much harder just to win your spot. And then, when you come off the bench, make the most of it so you can kind of push. And I just love the mentality. You talk to anyone in that Pacific team right now, they're confident. Doesn't matter what their role is. They know what they're doing is important, but there's also a bit of competitive fire, a bit of hunger. You can tell whenever, they're in training, they're in these games, every moment matters. And I think that's how they were able to grab a win like this, where look, they didn't have the greatest start. It was, very entertaining game, of course, for the neutral, but Pacific had 2 leads on the road against a team they feel that they should beat. They're in at halftime. Vancouver's got momentum. So for Pacific, the fact they're able to just keep going, and then just break the dam open, you can almost tell after the game. It wasn't like a relief. It wasn't like a, some sort of emotion. It was just, okay, we did our job. All right, great stuff. On to the next.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose as a coach, when you get 6 goals, it's special, but you're also thinking about the 3. That was certainly on the mind of James Merriman after this one.
Yeah, I think it's great for the fans. Great for the story of our 2 teams going at it, the local teams. So we were frustrated with how difficult we made the game for ourselves. I don't think it should have been like this. We scored early, which was great. We had a couple of good chances and we gave up a poor goal. And then we score and then we give up a weak goal again. So, I mean, we've been doing well defensively and off the ball, but I don't know why, but we couldn't defend. We didn't defend well today. Disappointing, but we scored 6 goals, so.
Score 6 goals. So, okay, fair enough. AGR, we've talked a bit of a theme all show here was major changes making major differences all weekend in the CPL. We saw it with Valor, with their changes. We saw it with Atletico Ottawa. We saw it with Forge, and we saw it with Pacific. A great day for Merriman. His key subs, particularly with Salouf and Yates, Ongaro. Many of them, Ongaro got the goal. Obviously, so did Mane. Key changes. Great day for him. Who was some of the key players that you thought really rose to the occasion in this one?
Yeah, for sure. Lots to like, and I love the depth point because I went through it. 9 different goal scorers already for Pacific, and they somehow don't have a brace this year despite their outbursts. But in this game, there was 2 for Pacific in particular. It has to be offensively in a game like this. To start, it was Josh Hurd. I think he needed a game like this. He's been playing very well, taking on that captaincy role, but we haven't really maybe seen as much of him in the final third as he can bring, especially last year. We saw him take over games. Now it feels, it feels like he's had another gear to hit. It's almost been like he's taken a step back and helped other guys, ease into their new roles. He's been playing on the right instead of his usual left. Today, or not today, but on Friday, he was on his left and he was up for it. Ibrahim Bakare, a bit of a fiery character, as we know, was trying to get under him right in the second minute. Hit it, Josh Hurd got a yellow. Those 2 were jawing back and forth. It was, popcorn box office right in front of us in the press box. And then what does Josh Hurd do? He goes, turns him inside out and puts that ball into the top corner. And it kind of summed up what kind of performance it was from Josh Hurd. You do not want to poke that bear because he'll rip things out like that. And then I think off the bench, Ayman Salouf, I mean, what I love about him is we mentioned it a couple weeks back, his 1v1 ability and how he's so tricky 1v1. He doesn't have a wide arsenal, so to speak, but he's one of those guys who has a handful to a dozen moves, but he uses them all so well. And I think if you look at his 3 sequences of goals, I love how he builds each one. First one, what do? You run at them, you cut inside, you score. Okay, what's in the mind of the defender next time you run down the field? He's going to cut inside. He's going to cut inside. You see them all like step inside. What does that do? It leaves Easton Ongaro to go right down Highway 1 and then get the pass and score. And then the third time, you're like, okay, let's just stand there and let him, let's not let him go outside, inside. Saluf cuts in, they panic. He makes the move, wins a penalty. And I just love when wingers have that sort of thought process where not only are they trying to score, trying to assist in the moment, but they're setting up moves that might pay off later. And Saluf does such a great job of that.
Yeah, so good. Such a great player. And, lots of players to like. You highlight too. Adonijah Reid was terrific. There's so many of them right now. As for the other side, let's go back to Langley. Here's some reaction from Vancouver FC head coach. Here's Ashvin Gotby.
Players showed some spirit. They fought back. 6-3, I think, was an unfair result. But I think it was a very good game for our fans and fans in Canada to see a game full of goals, full of chances, and a lot of excitement. We're on the wrong end of it, but I think we'll grow, we'll improve through these games. And I think we saw a side of our team that we are capable of scoring goals, we are capable of creating chances, and Pacific is obviously one of the strongest teams in the league. They have so much quality in almost in every position. Again, I'm disappointed. I am sad for our fans because we showed them something for 66 minutes and raised their expectation again, and we let them down. And we'll work on it. We'll go back to work again immediately, and we'll try to improve in the next match.
Still a magical day. TJ Tahit at 16 years old, becoming the youngest goal scorer in the history of the league, and it was a fine finish as well. He said the scoreline was unfair. I think Pacific's XG was less than 2.5, so it would probably suggest that a little bit. What do you make of this Vancouver team right now, AGR? Is it a sense of like if they take the they take the restraints off a little bit and come wide open, it becomes a track meet that they can't really compete like the Ottawa game, and if it's tight, then they can get the points? Is that a little bit too general? Is that fair?
I think it's something where I think we're seeing maybe a bit of the realities of their expansion team and what they've thrown together. I think what's been clear watching them is they've got some great attackers. I think that's something where expansion teams don't typically have that. And I think, again, you saw Sean Hundal had a fantastic game. I didn't shout him out in my greats, but I thought he was, if you're looking on the Vancouver side, Hundal was great. TJ Tahid to get that sort of production already out of a 16-year-old and just the maturity he has in his game, already fearless to run at guys. He kind of has, this fearless mentality. Of course, we've seen the quality Gael Sandoval has, and how big was the return of Gabriel Batar? That's a quality front four right there. That's a front four that can do damage. And then you look at the other end when their defenders get the play in front of them and they're able to set. I mean, Rocco Romeo, is a very, very good center back in this league. Pele Martinez has had some bright games as of late. Ibrahim Bakari as well. Maybe it wasn't his best night on Friday, but he's also shown quality. It just feels like for them, it's figure out how you put both sides of that together. How do you get it where you're getting defenders behind the ball, you're helping your defenders, but you're getting the ball to that front four? Because feels like in games where they've defended well, their front four has been a bit isolated. They haven't gotten them on the ball as much. And when games when their front four like this are flying and look great, it just feels like there's something missing to kind of connect it all. And that's kind of going to be the next step for Afshin Gotby. And, that's just the reality of an expansion team. You look at that team, you wonder, okay, maybe they could use another midfielder or two. And look, that's something where I'm sure they're looking at that and will want to correct that in whatever way possible.
Yeah, as usual, great points. It seems like maybe like a group of like 14, 15 players max that he really, really trusts right now. And that's a little bit the lacking of the depth, which is natural, as you alluded to. But, Bakri, Martinez still played every minute of every game so far, which is exactly what you need when you're setting up from the back for an expansion team. What's next for these guys? What do you expect next week for these two teams, AGR?
For sure. It's 2 big games. I mean, Vancouver travels to Cavalry, so another away trip to a tough locale. Cavalry is obviously going to be fired up after dropping late points in the sort of top matchup they've got with Forge going on there. So Vancouver will have their hands full. It'll be interesting to see what they can bring defensively after allowing 6, because they bounced back by heading to Forge and getting a 0-0 last time they had a similar performance at home defensively. As for Pacific, I mean, this one's the top Spiel, as they say in Germany, right? The top 2 teams in the standings, and I'm always loving watching those sorts of games. So they travel to Forge in what should be a spicy game. The first one was such a good game tactically, that 1-0 win where Forge came in, maybe got a bit lucky with the goal, but had such a good defensive performance. And Pacific were also great on the day. So I feel like this one should be a special one.
Yeah, looking forward to both those games as well. Great to see you again, and as usual, the goals continue to follow you around, man. AGR, more goals than Haaland. That's the name right now. I appreciate you, buddy. Keep up the great work as ever. Catch AGR's work at campio.ca and, of course, One Soccer. Let's take a look at the standings as we wrap up Week 8 in the CPL, and it continues to be the same story at the top, but getting closer, no doubt about it. Forge had the opportunity to extend that. They're still only at the top, and they've played one game more than some teams. 9 games played, 16 points for Forge. Pacific just 1 point back with 1 game in hand. York are third on 13. They played 1 more game as well, and the rest have all played 8. Cavalry fourth on 9, just ahead of Valor on 9. Atletico Ottawa 6th, 8 from 8. Vancouver FC 7 from 8. And at the bottom, winless so far, Halifax Wanderers 6 points from 8. It's that tight right now. Week 9 in the CPL starts Friday, as we alluded to, at York Lions Stadium. York United against Atletico Ottawa carries a doubleheader on Saturday. Halifax Wanderers, boy oh boy, are they looking at this one to think that they could win this against Valor. That's a local kickoff there as well. Early on that one on Saturday. Forge against Pacific is the nightcap. Heavyweight clash there in Hamilton. And then on Sunday, Cavalry. A theme here where Halifax and Cavalry both on that right-hand side of the graphic. If you're watching key home games, they will look to want to win as they take on Vancouver FC. Until next week, we'll see you then, and we'll leave you with the best already from someone who's becoming the quickest set-piece menace in the CPL. Amir Didic, already on the goals with a lot of goals already through 8 games.
Near post forward, penetrates it behind Didic, goes up, puts it down, off the crossbar again! A scintillating bits of skill from Amir to go up in the air and want it more than anybody else. As Adonijah Reed puts it in a spot that only the big center back can get to. Motivated for this one, but defending Didic into a wide open net. Scoring again off a broken corner kick.
I've said it once, and I'll say it again. This big young man on set pieces is so dangerous. You almost want to get 2 guys on him.